As a partner at Lynx Research, Chris Hauck is transforming the firm and its clients into industry leaders through transformational insights. Here's how. Uncovering transformational insight, how do you go about unlocking them?
Well, for us, it's similar to this, right? We would like to start with a conversation with customers, right? Have them talk about their experiences in such a way that we can identify what could be insights in that conversation.
You're a well-traveled guy. Can you give me a timeline of everywhere that you've been since your early beginnings?
Senegal, Ivory Coast, Angola, Cameroon, South Africa, and then a short period in Portugal. All of those changes really kind of refined my view of people being complex and different and lots of different motivations and in the way they see the world themselves.
So you've been on the agency side, on the vendor side, the client side,
Yep.
as well as a consultant. So walk me through those different experiences.
So I started with a small agency, moved to a small supplier, moved to client side for a few years, as started out as the bottom of the rung. Then left there for a supplier, spent a few years at that supplier, moved to a couple others until I started my own.
Is there a consistent thread or pattern between those different roles?
For me, it's really all about the design of the study. So I still, I've been in this for close to 30 years, and as part of that, all the rules that I associate with doing a project for a client all apply. Even when I was on the client side, it was still a project for a client that we're trying to accomplish. So all the basic rules of statistics that we apply, all of the design thinking about the process and how we're going to do it and how a respondent's going to go through it, all that stuff is consistent. The challenge for me is always the design. How do we design it so that it gets the solution that we're looking for?
Market researchers that are within the confines, right, of a corporate structure and environment, I think take a very different DNA level to operate and be exceptional.
Right.
It takes a very unique skill set there.
I think they're
does
incredibly patient,
right,
and very consultative. They have to be even almost more consultative than I do, because most of my conversations are with researchers, so they automatically get when I start talking about a discrete choice exercise, or we're going to do it this way, or they get those things. Their clients typically don't. They'll ask questions like, why don't you just ask them, or why don't we look at social media and see what they think, and those kind of questions. Whereas I'm working with a really very educated and knowledgeable person, sometimes even more knowledgeable than I am.
How do you define insight?
For me, an insight is a discovery of some kind which has a value to your client, right? That's truly an insight. That even if that insight is not something that will move the financial needle of the business, but might move an attitude or change a behavior or whatever it is. But an insight really is something that you discover that has value to your client.
And I'm curious, do you find that it's rooted in data?
No, absolutely not. So oftentimes we do qualitative, and people see the results of that qualitative effort and make significant changes to their business based on what they learned in a qualitative project. Do we recommend that they do quantitative as well? Sure, but oftentimes the real nugget of change the world insight comes out of the qualitative piece.
Transformational.
Yeah, the kind of things that say, if you did this differently, this way, then you get that much more business. Or we recently did a study in the restaurant industry where we came up with an insight that could significantly change the way you look at their industry. Their customers told us things that helped us redesign something, the way they do something, that will be a radical change to their entire industry. And super cool, we'd never figured it out without a couple of customers talking about their frustrations around a particular meal.
CMOs are looking at researchers as saying, you're showing me stuff that's in the rearview mirror. You're showing me what happened.
Yep.
I need to know what's going to happen. So let's talk about, what do you see? What do you see on the horizon?
I often tell students this, that one of the coolest things about what marketing researchers can do is that done right, if we do what we're doing and we do it right, we can actually predict the future. It's almost like this magical power that we've got that we can use. Now, we don't use it as often as we'd like, but we can actually design studies using a wide variety of different tools, but with forecast in mind. Those are the pieces that are more complex, more challenging, more difficult. The stuff that is hindsight looking is actually the stuff that is moving to do-it-yourself platforms, is moving to the cheap and easy and quick kind of things that clients are doing on their own. More and more of our industry is moving towards a do-it-yourself environment where the client can do it on their own, but most of that work is going to be in hindsight, looking back, not the forecasting work that we're talking about, not the giant insights kind of work that we're talking about. Because as we continue down that path of going faster and cheaper, the quality of our insight is actually I believe is going to decrease.
A client once told me you can choose 2 of the 3.
The industry has equated that with better, but in reality, they're not getting better.
It's a race to the bottom.
It really is, and that is my biggest fear for our industry today.